And we're live. So, what's going on, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. This is actually the earliest I've done this in a while, but as you know, today it's FAMU and it's South Carolina State. Old MEAC rivals get well acquainted again, and it's going to be a good one. Last week, as we all know, FAMU beat Mississippi Valley 34-7 at home. Home winning streak now stretches to 13, but now you're on the road for the first time, and you're going to be on the road, and you won't be playing a home game really for the rest of the month. So until homecoming, honestly. But huge step in the right direction. Still showing improvement week by week by week. There's still a lot to still be talked about, and of course, last week I know a lot of people were frustrated with the way the play calling was after the fake punt. Because usually in those type of situations, you need to have a play lined up to run after you run that play, or you should already have one ready to go right away in case. Okay, here's what we're going to do if we get it. Here's what we're going to do if we don't get it. But we're going to talk about that, of course. We're going to break down South Carolina State. We're going to talk about keys to victory, the matchups, and everything such as that. Um, if you are watching on Twitter, I don't know what's wrong with the video, but hopefully it gets fixed. Hopefully StreamYard fixes that. But as well, too, we're going to talk about FAMU's key players to watch, the matchups to watch, keys to victory for today, everything such as that. So, as always, it's going to be a fun one. If you are in Orangeburg, if you're on your way to the game, have a safe drive and get comfortable and just listen to my voice as I talk about this and I break this down. Also, shout out to the one follower that we have on YouTube, I believe, that came up to me Saturday and brag and said, "What's up?" Appreciate things like that all the time. But yes, as always, be sure to leave a comment. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you're watching with a group of people, everybody like, share, and subscribe. We're going to get right into it. As always, intros next. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be a fun one. Let's go. I'm so pleased now to know that it's actually working on Twitter today. Wow. I don't know what was going on Tuesday and Wednesday night, but I'm happy about that. So, okay, yeah, a few things, few house cleaning things too. Also, if you're into baseball, current situation: Rays 0, Guardians 0 into the fourth. So that's a close matchup. Easy to say. Guardians win, they advance to the ALDS. Rays lose, they go home. Rays win, we play on for another game. A couple other scores before I dive into this right now. Michigan 10, Indiana 10, Tennessee 20, LSU 0. Which kind of didn't see them punching him in the mouth like that. TCU 10, Kansas 0. Need to update that score as well. So, yeah, I think TCU's undefeated streak may be coming to an end today. And then, of course, Mississippi State 21, Arkansas 0. That's another shocker as well that I did not see coming today. But wow. All the other games later on, of course. This is the first actual HBCU game that's up today. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. Feel free to chime in the comments and stuff. Drop your score predictions. Give your take of today. Everything such as that. Well, actually, one thing before I do get started, I know a lot of people were upset with the way that the fake punt was orchestrated last week. Yes, we got it, but at the same time, too, there has to be a plan to follow after that. If you're going to run the fake punt, and kudos to Coach Chili Davis for having the guts to do that and actually test it out against an inferior opponent like Mississippi Valley. But if you're going to do that going forward, okay, for one, but this is where coaches have to coordinate better. If you're Willie Simmons and you're calling the offensive plays, you need to be coordinating well with Coach Davis and saying, okay, Coach, we're going for it here. If we get it, do your thing. And at that point, offensive staff, Coach Henry, Coach Simmons need to have a plan already drawn out to where, okay, if they get it, this is what we're going to roll out with. Musa, be ready to roll. Here we go. All right. Instead, I feel like what happened was there was no planned play set to roll out with. For instance, such as if you saw Green Bay and the Bucs play a few weeks ago, Tampa Bay got the touchdown, but they had no 2-point conversion play ready to roll out with. And I think that what happened there happened Saturday last week. So for going forward, if you're going to do that, you have to have a plan played out. And this is where you have to constantly go over and practice these types of scenarios, because a lot of people will say, things like that never usually happen. You got to practice scenarios in case for unforeseen injuries, you get a certain look in the game, certain things like that. That's why you practice those scenarios. So I think hopefully going forward, that is orchestrated better, because I know that ticked off a lot of people as well, too. The score being 14-7 at the end of the first half, and it shouldn't have been that. You shouldn't have had to go on a 20-0 run at the end of the game to take control. But that's neither here nor there. Now, moving forward to this week, so for South Carolina State, last game they lost to South Carolina 50-10. That's not the game you want to go based off of as far as the stat line goes. But the game that you do want to go based off is the A&T stat line. Now, as far as last week goes for South Carolina State, they might be better than their 1-3 record. Only 75 yards passing against South Carolina. 1 interception from Tyrese Nick. 2 interceptions from Corey Fields Jr. They have no true running back on this roster, from what it looks like. Damn, you got to take care of the ball today and run the ball well. Oh, yeah. No, yeah, you do. You do. If honestly, I was talking to someone earlier, if you can establish a running game, you have a chance to win. You have to establish the rushing attack. I think this week really is as good of any, and thank you for the comment. I think this week is as good as any to really establish your running attack. Why? Because when you look at it, against A&T, the passing game was hot. That's not the one I was looking at. They present with a 4-down lineman look, but they'll occasionally bring up a fifth, maybe an outside linebacker or a defensive back. So they gave up 439 total yards to A&T. But at the same time, 284 of those yards came on the ground. So the gaps are there. You can take advantage of it. They have a very talented linebacking core, as always, with Buddy Pugh. He always is going to bring a tough and aggressive defense. Of course, he's done that since he took over the job at South Carolina State. So you should be able to establish your running game today. And as Boss Man T put it, and as someone else put it in the comment section on Twitter a few hours ago, the team that runs the ball better will win this game. This is going to be a battering and bruising game. It's going to be the power South Carolina State possesses against the speed that FAMU has. And FAMU needs to utilize the speed. Now, the beautiful thing about this matchup today, as far as FAMU's rushing attack against South Carolina State's defense, is I'm not sure if A.J. Davis is active today, but you have Terrell Jennings, you have Jalen McLeod, and you've got your lightning in a bottle in DeAndre Francis, who's back this week and ready to go. So you have a trio of running backs that can take the challenge of this South Carolina State front. As well, too, against North Carolina A&T, the passing game, it got hot under Corey Fields Jr. 316 total yards passing. So, yes, they can light you up if they pass it. 12 of those yards were rushing. Again, that's back-to-back weeks where it goes to show that their strong suit is not running the football. But at the same time, too, they had 2 turnovers. So if you think about it, 3 turnovers against South Carolina, 2 turnovers against A&T. That's 5 turnovers. Just off 2 fumbles and 3 interceptions in the last 2 weeks, the last 2 games. They will turn the ball over. And I think what it is, Tyrese Nick and Corey Fields Jr. They get a little trigger happy and they'll turn the ball over. Plus, I think this year too, I don't want to say it too soon because this is about the same time too when these two teams met up last year. I don't think that this is the strongest team in the MEAC this year. It's going to be a tough outing, but I don't think this is the toughest team. Am I nervous about this game? Nervous isn't a good word to put it, but I would not take South Carolina State lightly. I would say that. They are better than their 1-3 record indicates. Because if you look at their 1-3 record, their 3 losses have been to pretty quality teams. Give or take, A&T's not that great of a team, and I think within the Carolinas, that's a rivalry. But you lose to a good UCF team that's gonna probably win the American this year. Who else was there? They lost to A&T, and then they lost to South Carolina, who's an SEC team that won't really compete for their conference. But I mean, their losses, it's hard to really gauge their losses, honestly. I mean, and then the only team they beat was Bethune-Cookman. So this is the one team, and usually about this time of the year, you're kind of figuring out who a team is. But right now, it's kind of hard to really gauge who is South Carolina State. Got to count. If AMU can stop the run, they should be in good shape to win. I'm not a believer in Fields winning the game. Oh, yeah. No, not at all. Honestly, I'm not a huge believer in South Carolina State's rushing attack. You look at it, Kendrell Flowers last week, 14 carries, 28 yards. And then against, I believe it was, Kendrell Flowers had, 28 yards from scrimmage. 12 yards against A&T, rushing in total. I'm not a huge believer in South Carolina State's rushing attack. What worries me more is their passing attack with Shaq Davis and company. So I'd say if you could stop the run, and again, your secondary is going to be put to the test again this week. It's going to be put to a test. So secondary is going to have to rise to the occasion this week. It worries me that we sit back so many times and we wait for things to happen. But hopefully we're starting to come out of that and get a feel for what we need to do. A prime example, Courtney Cox, who played a hell of a game last week, having seen it firsthand. I was right there field level when he laid out the Mississippi Valley wide receiver. So, I mean, hopefully this secondary can rise to the occasion. As well, too, South Carolina State had 12 penalties for 109 yards last week. That's not good. So not only have they turned the ball over 5 times, 3 times in the air, twice on the ground in 2 games. Last week against South Carolina, they had 12 penalties for 109 yards. You can bait these guys into PIs. You can bait these guys into offsides calls. They're liable probably for a false start. They're liable likely for holding. Too many men on the field. They're likely to have those little simple mistakes that Coach Simmons so endlessly preaches to FAMU and to all of us. So, yeah, I think, honestly, South Carolina State will make their own mistakes. They will. It's just a matter of taking advantage of them. And when the opportunity comes, depending on what the situation is, have a set play drawn up for certain situations. FAMU also played a lot of soft coverage. That's how Shador had a big game. Yeah, exactly. They sat back too many times. I'm still wondering, why would you sit back against a quarterback like that who's been groomed and been polished? And to be honest with you, he's learned from some of the best quarterbacks in the game. I know a lot of people want to say Shador's not that good, but he's learned from some of the best quarterbacks in the game. He trained with Tom Brady. His dad's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. He's been around greatness since he was born, I'm sure. So, I mean, give or take, Corey Fields can sling it. Tyrese Nick can sling. I'm not going to say that about Tyrese Nick. Well, yeah, I'm not going to say that about Tyrese Nick. Corey Fields can sling it, given what they did against A&T. So, you got to be ready. Now, for FAMU, last week, beat Mississippi Valley 34-7. Slow start, very strong finish. Offense only had 2 TDs in the first half. You'd like to see more. Taking this offense took too long to find a groove. It did. The out route was open for the majority of that game last week. Quite honestly, easy to say against Mississippi Valley. Will it be open again today? Not sure. It's going to be hard sledding going up the middle against, B.J. Davis and Dewani Nichols. B.J. Davis for South Carolina State had 12 total tackles. 17 total last week, 12 solo, 5 assists. You might want to, if you're going to pass it, avoid the middle. Hit the seam. Go to the outside. Post corner routes, post routes, sluggo seam routes. That'll get them. They're going to have to start faster and play better. Oh, yeah. Honestly, the next 2 weeks, if you ask me, the next 2 weeks you're going to have to start much, much faster. You cannot come out the starting blocks too slow. You come out the starting blocks too slow in either of these 2 games, you're liable to get beat. And, that's where I do trust Coach Simmons. Hopefully we'll have them playing with more of a sense of urgency coming on the road, because we're going to see if this offense truly does travel. Because the last time this offense traveled to a neutral site, it didn't travel well. So we're going to see if it traveled well to Orangeburg. And hopefully it does. Well, defense didn't travel well to Miami either, but it's besides the point. But, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're going to have to start faster. You can't manage a slow start against South Carolina State. I don't care if they're 1-3 or if they were 3-1 or if they were undefeated. You can't manage a slow start. Yes, it is. It is. It's going to be very crucial because, as you can see, against they had 316 yards against A&T. Corey Fields can sling it. You can't afford a slow start. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself trailing. And the way we sit back in coverage, I don't like that against a guy that's worthy of NFL type credibility in Shaq Davis. Who, by the way, I think deserves a combine invite at the end of this season. So also too, let's see here, 8 penalties for 86 yards. Got a limited delay of game penalties, which I don't understand. So if I were Musa right now, and I'm like I said, I'm not a player, I'm not a coach, but if I were Musa right now, what I would suggest is the minute you get to the stadium and you go out for warm-ups, locate the play clock. It's okay to talk to the official before the game starts, saying, okay, play clocks are here, here, and here. If I'm going this way, where's the play clock at? Where do I need to look? Where do I need to look to find the sticks? If I'm going the opposite way, where do I look to find the play clock? That's the first thing I'm identifying if I'm a visitor in someone else's stadium. And that's how it should always be when you're, no matter where you are, whether you're at home, whether you're in a neutral site, whether you're on the road. Always, if you're a quarterback, identify where the play clock is. Coaches too, identify where the play clock is, and then you go from there. Down and distance, play clock, game clock. Know where all 3 are at all times. You had 401 yards of total offense last week, 301 passing, 107 on the ground. You limited Mississippi Valley to 53 yards on the ground, which was much more impressive, and it speaks true to the result you got as far as Mississippi Valley only getting 7 points. Quite honestly, I want to be able to say hopefully this defense is starting to slowly find its groove. It's getting better week by week. Defensively, I like where we're at. Offensively, like I said, we start too slow. Defensively, I think as far as our front seven goes, I think we can take South Carolina State. The running game for South Carolina State, I'm not even worried about today. I don't think that they're going to have much success really running the ball today. Again, if you can limit them and hold them to, that number 50, 53, 75 at the max as far as rushing, you can win this game. You have to make South Carolina State play one-dimensional football. That's what they did against A&T. They had a crazy game as far as passing, but they lost. You have to limit them and make them one-dimensional. Defense had 2 key fumble recoveries. You found some consistency in the running game last week. You're still waiting for that true breakout performance from our rushing attack, but I think this is going to be a game where if you can establish the run, you're going to have success. Moose just got to take what they give him. Sometimes it seems he overthinks. It does, quite honestly. Having seen it, at field level now and seeing what was open and what wasn't, you look at it and you're just like, you know, we've come a long way since the North Carolina game where he was just shredding them. But I think what it is a lot of teams went back and looked at the Jackson State tape and realized, okay, this is what he likes to do. We can't just let him sit back there and do what he does. We need to, shadow coverage to one side of the field, whichever side is his strong side. We got to take away his checkdowns and force him to actually throw it deep. And the other thing I've noticed too, and I'm glad you said that about Musa, if you've noticed as far as all the quarterbacks since Willie Simmons has taken over, you ever notice they don't wear QB wristbands with the plays on them? Ryan Stanley didn't wear one. Rashawn McKay didn't wear one last year. Musa doesn't wear one. I'm curious as to why. It may be the way Coach Simmons likes to run things. That's fine. But that's just something I've noticed as of really the last 2 years. And then going back and looking at the 2019 and 2018 tape. But yeah, I don't know if y'all noticed that the QBs don't wear QB play sheets on their wrist. Which, I mean, honestly, it might not hurt to implement that. It might help a little bit. But again, who knows? As far as players to watch goes today, Jeremy Musa, of course, 291 yards, 2 passing TDs. Oh, I'd like to see him light it up a little bit more. Terrell Jennings, 14 carries, 59 yards, 1 TD. Xavier Smith, 13 receptions, 128 yards. Jamari Shareed, 5 receptions, 74 yards. I'd like to see Shareed have more of a greater impact like he did 2 weeks ago against Alabama A&M. Linebacker Isaiah Major, 3 solo tackles, 2 assists, 5 total tackles. He's becoming the big name playmaker on the defense. He's becoming that alpha that I think we've all been hoping to see, because I love that. Isaiah Lance slowly coming into his own, getting his bearings as the season progresses. 3 total tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. He's coming into his own, and I think that's what this defense needed going forward. Everything's slowly coming together for this defense. They're slowly gaining their confidence. And that's going to be pivotal as we move forward in the coming weeks. As you get into the season and you go further along, you're going to need it when you go to Grambling next week. You're going to need it coming out of the bye week, which will be even more beneficial because you got a second bye week before homecoming. You're going to damn sure need it when you go against Southern. You're going to need it when you play Alabama State, and you're going to need it when you go to Orlando. Pass rush outside of Lamb will be key too. Yes, no, it will. Guys like General Hunt and Company, they got to get home, and I'm confident they will start getting home. And then also too, if you can start bringing Eric Smith more off of the edge and in corner blitz out of that nickel position, that's also helpful. I want to see Isaiah Lynn dominate today's game. Yes, he does. I think he really does, and I'd like to see him do it for a consecutive number of weeks. He needs to have a consecutive number of weeks where he's honestly, late in the third or fourth quarter, he's just taking over games, dominating, imposing his will. That's the type of performance we need from Isaiah Lane. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure it was either Alabama State or it was South Carolina State last year where he had 5 sacks in a game. That's the type of performance that he needs to have going forward. I said it early in the season before the season started. Isaiah Land to get drafted would need to have another type of a season where he has 15 to 25 sacks. Really, this year, I would just love to see him be disruptive and just wreak havoc, create fumbles, force Corey Fields and Tyrese Nick into making those mistakes. But I'm definitely I want to see him have an NFL type of game where he just takes the game over on defense. He forces, say Corey Fields Jr. rolls out. If Isaiah Land comes up the field with coverage up that weak side shoulder, he can force Corey Fields to peel back, rolls him right into the rest of the defense. Isaiah Major and company come in and clean up the rest of the mess. That's what I would like to see. Also, too, little tidbit, I'm hoping Jordan Moore is active today. I'm really hoping he's active today. I've heard that he's been practicing, but I'm not sure if he's a go today. I hope he is. If he is, that's much needed help in the back end that was heavily needed because him and Javon Morgan together is better than just one of them back there. Or even having Jordan Moore in the box as an extra, strong safety at extra linebacker element is much needed too. Now, as far as questions go for today, what needs to happen for this offense to get up to a quicker start? I think you got to have the element of lightning in a bottle, and having DeAndre Francis being able to create big playability, establish the run with your power backs. Or Moore is a dog. Yeah, no, he is. I'm just hoping he's able to play. I'm hoping he's able to play. That's the main thing I'm hoping for today. He is a dog, but I'm just hopeful he's able to play. Now, but yeah, I think establishing the run to set up the pass will be pivotal. I think you have power backs. You got 2 power backs. Wear them down with the power, and then throw in DeAndre Francis and let him take it the distance. That's what you're gonna have to do today to a defense like this. They're gonna load 7 in the box in certain situations, especially 3rd and short, 4th and short situations. They're gonna put 7, 8 in the box. So I'd say just be ready, and probably early to test Musa to see if he can handle that blitz coming early. They're gonna probably put 7 or 8 in the box just to see. And they're either going to come with coverage or they're going to drop into coverage to see how he responds to it. And with that, you got to win your outside matchups one-on-ones. FAMU's wide receivers have done an excellent job of doing that post-Jackson State game. So hopefully today that can continue. I don't see any corners that resemble Jacoby Durant on South Carolina's roster. So that's an added bonus. And you've got 3-4 guys plus your tight ends that can do damage. Now the other one is, if we get into another fake punt situation, how do you improve? Simply put, if you get into another fake punt situation, have a play set up to follow it. That's the only thing I'll say. Have a play set up that will follow the fake punt. Because if you go into a situation where you don't have a play to follow that fake punt, you set yourself up behind the sticks. And you're not doing yourself any favors. So you got to have a play ready to roll. And hopefully, now that they've seen that, going forward, they'll know how to approach it. Well, how can this offense exploit the weaknesses of South Carolina State's defense? Simply put, pound the rock. Pound the rock. Early and often. And when they start biting on it and loading the box up, it sets up the pass. How do you stop the big playability of Shaq Davis? Simply put, you're not going to be able to sit back and let this guy work in front of you and keep everything in front of you. You got to get up and press that guy. He's an NFL quality talent. Don't sit back and wait for him to make a big play. And the guys that his wide receiver 2's behind him, don't sit back and wait for them to make big plays either. You got to hit these guys in the mouth. The only way you stop a big-name wide receiver like that is you got to get physical with him, and you got to stop him. That is my only advice on how you stop him and do what you have to do to win. Where else are we? How critical is it to make South Carolina State one-dimensional? Simply put, if I am FAMU, I'm taking away the ability to pass. I know as hard as that's going to be today to say. Take away South Carolina State's ability to pass and force them to run because they are not a good running team. Because look, you were the lead. He was the lead. Tyrese Nick was the lead rusher against South Carolina, 95 yards. Against A&T, they only had 12 yards as a team rushing. 28 of those yards last week were by Kentrell Flowers. You got to take it away. Take away the pass. Make them one-dimensional. They are not a good running team. Why is red zone efficiency vital? Look, simply put, I believe it was Mississippi Valley. If I'm Terrell Jennings, or if you set up in that wild rattler formation, let me say that right. If you set up in that wild rattler formation and the edge is open, take the edge. You have enough speed. You're a Florida guy. Use your speed and get outside. If they load up 7, then we should screen them to death. Tight ends, Should have a huge day in the middle of the defense if South Carolina State loads the D line. Oh yeah, no, yeah, they should. And even with that, this is a game where Kamari Young, Jordan Pruitt, and Nick Dixon, they should all have big days if that does happen, and if Willie Simmons does have the tight end screen in his arsenal. I know, not Jordan Roll, but I know Jeremiah Pruitt dropped an easy catch for a first down where he could have probably fell for another 5 yards last week, but they still went to the well with him. And look, that has to be something that you continuously do if it is open. So yeah, I would definitely screen him to death with running backs and tight ends. I sure would, because that's what Buddy P wants to do. He wants to get up in your face. He wants to be aggressive. He wants to be physical with his opponents. So yeah, definitely tight end screens. It's a great point. It's an excellent point. How beneficial is it to have DeAndre Francis back? Okay, I said it earlier. Having him back adds another element. You have the element of speed. You've had thunder and thunder for the past couple weeks, but now you have the element of now we can have lightning in a bottle. Let that lightning loose. Let him go get those huge chunk yards. If he gets in space, I'm sure there's not that many people that can catch him. And despite what we've seen when he played against Albany State, he hasn't really broken out. He just got his feet wet. So if he can really break out and get loose, there's a chance that he can have a big day, I think. So, without further ado, also, too, if y'all want to comment your scores in the comment section, too. For those of you watching on Twitter, head over to YouTube if you want to comment your scores as well. But I will say, as far as keys to victory goes, facts. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But as far as keys to victory goes today, establish the run offensively. Take away the pass defensively. Special teams wise, because we saw it last week, have a plan in place for the situation is what I will say. Those are my 3 keys to victory. Establish the run on offense, take away the pass on defense, have a plan for the situation when it presents itself on special teams. I'm confident in Jose Romo Martinez and company. So, yeah. FAMU 34-17. Okay, yeah, I like it. I'm with you. 28-17. 35-10 FAMU wins. I like it. I can get with it. I'm going to say 34-24. 34-24. I think FAMU wins today. And you move forward, you're 4-2. You come along. That means at that point you come a long way from where you were, and you're still looking good. And then you still need a little bit of lady luck as far as Celebration Bowl goes. I don't know how realistic that may be, but a win today goes a long way as far as the FCS playoffs. So I will leave it with that. I will be back after this game is over. Hopefully I can come back outside. Beautiful day today, actually. If you are in Orangeburg, be safe, enjoy the game, take in the sights and everything such as that. If you're watching at home like I am, hey, crack open a cold one and sit back and enjoy this one. The only concern with FAMU is how they play coverage against their best receiver. And like I said earlier, you can't sit back like we've been doing this season and just let him make plays in front of you, because he has the ability. He's long, he's lengthy, he can fall forward for 5 yards. You have to get up in his face and get physical with him. If you need to shade a safety over there to that side, by all means, shade a safety over there. If you shade Javon Morgan over there and shadow him and take him away. Or if Jordan Moore is able to play today, shade Jordan Moore over to that side. And if Jordan Moore has to lay him out within the rules of the game and it's not targeting, then I guarantee you Shaq Davis will think twice about going that way and running whatever route he's running. But Buddy Pugh is going to try to create space to create opportunities for Shaq Davis today. I guarantee you him and his offensive staff are going to do that. So I would just say, if you can take him away, that makes life a lot easier for you this afternoon. But on that note, I'm going to wrap this up. I hope you all have enjoyed this content as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. As always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Share this, of course. I'll be back after this game, hopefully, like I said, outside talking about what went right, what went wrong, who's next. And because we all know Rambling's next on the schedule next week, you're going to have to go to the hole and play them. I call them Rambling because they took the G off the helmet. But, yeah, I'll be back after the game for sure. But as always, stay safe, stay blessed. I'll see you afterwards for discussion.